Alrighty. Peace. Welcome back. Praise God. Alrighty. Can you all hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. Can you all hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. I have a lot of background noise today. You can? Alright. Yes. Alrighty. Welcome. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and get into today's message. Praise God. All praises to the Most High. I'm excited to have you all on with us. We appreciate you. Alrighty. So, hopefully all is well with everybody. Thank you for being on with us again. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Amen. And all praises to the Most High Yah. We give all praise and honor to Him again. For my wife, the Honorable Maya. Also, thank you to Elder Tamara for giving us the word for early rising Bible study session. Excellent message. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting. We have put the information to give to her if you would like to. If you didn't get that information, if you'd like to get it later on, let me know. And we'll make sure that we send to her whatever you guys would like, or we send you her information so you can send it to her and send her a thank you and all that great stuff. As she continues to use her great gift to give us great knowledge, to help us with our great intimacy with the Most High. Alrighty, but welcome everybody, welcome. We are about to get started. So everybody said they should be able to hear me, so we're gonna go with what we got. Thank you again. We appreciate you so very much. We honor your presence. Trying to make sure everybody can see me. Alright, no matter where you may be watching, okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this. We're gonna get ready to say our Bible pledge. So if you're able to rise to your feet, or however you're able to reverence the word of Yah, we're gonna get ready to say our Bible pledge together and jump right in to this message for today. How's everybody doing? How you doing, Sister Tamika? How you doing, Laura? Everybody on all the different platforms, thanks for being on with us. How you doing? One Who Whispers, Willie Peach, Sister Greta, Julie, Sister Sylvia, Cece, Guan Audrey. Okay, they're saying that we lost the connection. How we lost? I don't know. Alright, let me see something. Okay. Messing with us here. We should have no problem with sending it off, at least over here. Hello, Brother Craig. Can you guys hear me over here? And can you guys hear me over here? Because you guys should be on the same signal. Actually, maybe you're not. If unstable, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Finally getting closer to being on time, but we're still dealing with all this other weird stuff over here. It's alright as of now. And then it just went away. Can you guys hear me right now? Yes, no, maybe so. Can you hear me right now on this platform? On this platform right here? Probably not. Yes. Okay. I don't know. It's saying. All right. Shalom. Can you hear me, Sister Taylor? I guess we're going to. It's weird when you guys are saying you can hear me and saying that it's red over here. Oh, Itazuke. Itazuke. Arabic. You can hear when it's part of the lot? Okay. I'm going to try something. I'm just trying something real quick. I apologize, you all. Y'all know this comes with the territory. I'm going to try again. Got like 3 or 4 different signals we can bounce off of, but they're not letting us. They're making it difficult today, but can you guys hear me right now? So So now it says it's a great connection, even though for real, it should be worse. So yes, okay. So we just had to deal with all this nonsense today. It is what it is. Okay. Well, you guys keep me honest if it starts going in and out or freezing, because technically I shouldn't have a signal right now. So somebody's messing with the signal. It's all great. We're gonna go ahead and do what we do, what we come here to do, what we always do. Give all praise and honor to the Most High and get into this. Alrighty. So let's go ahead. I hope that y'all are ready. We go ahead and say our Bible pledge and we shall jump right in. Alright, you can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this is what I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall never be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yahshua. His name, his authority. Let it be done unto us. You may be seated or go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. So we've been in this series now for a little bit. And the series is called, by the way, to reverse the curse. Reversing the curse, right, means revisiting the lie. And that's the name of the series. Reversing the curse means revisiting the lie. Right? And if you're with us over here, I don't know, I might have to restart over here. We'll see what it does. It looks like they're making it very difficult for us to do anything, but we're going to continue. All right. So, revisiting, let me go back again. And how you doing? Everybody who's coming in, appreciate you. So, once again, right, reversing the curse, right? Reversing the curse. To reverse the curse means revisiting the lie. Right? We were told something was true. We know it's not true. But now it's not enough to just be aware that something is not true. We have to actually go back, revisit it, look at the angle that stuff came from, what is the prism that we've been looking through, etc., right? So in order to reverse the curse, we must revisit the lie. And today, our focal point is actually going to be on does family matter? Does family matter? Right? Does family actually matter? Does family matter in the Bible? Has somebody been telling you something that family doesn't in fact matter? I think I said Shalom, Brother Dennis. If not, please forgive me. How you doing? Right? How you doing, Sister Mignon? So the question today that we're going to focus on in this series, once again, the series is called Reversing the Curse Means Revisiting the Lie. And today we're going to ask the question, does family matter? Brazil in the house. How you doing? Gracias por tu presencia. It's not exactly Portuguese, it's Spanish, but it is what it is. Well, right? So reversing the curse means revisiting the lie. Are we going to be honest about that? If we're going to reverse the curses, we have to first realize what happened, because ultimately, if you know how a curse works, a curse is something that's given to you because of disobedience. Right? Is that correct? That's not that difficult for us, right? That if I'm dealing in the curse, I'm dealing in disobedience, right? In your Bible, right? When it begins to rain, right, or when it stops raining, it's due to what? It's due to disobedience, right? When it stops raining, in the Bible, if we start going through plagues, it's going to be due to disobedience. Or even the Most High plaguing the people and making a distinction between us and them, right? But I ask the question once again, it's important that we catch this, right? It's important that we catch this, is that all these things are due to disobedience, including curses, right? How you doing, Culture Prospect? A curse is due to one's disobedience. When we have been disobedient, we have had to deal with consequences. Those consequences are called curses, right? They're not the only consequences, but if you receive a curse, it's due to the fact of disobedience. Now, there are others who might come and play on those curses, right? There are others that might come and say, okay, I see that they're dealing with the curse of, that comes out of lust. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we'll deal with that. Or somebody might come through and say, oh, okay, they already have sex. S-E-C-T-S. set up, right? So they already have all this disagreement, all this fighting back and forth, yada yada. It's easy for them. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to multiply, right? I'm just going to take what they're doing and I'm going to accelerate. That's right. But we forget that curses are coming in due to our disobedience. Right? Now, it's important that we catch that because also blessings come in through our obedience. That's correct. I pray that we don't have any disagreements on that, right? So if I'm obedient, right, there is an expectation that there are positive consequences or blessings. Matter of fact, if we know how it works when we receive something, as far as inheritance, right, we have to know that inheritance is through a family. And it has to be in the will of a family or whoever's will we're talking about. Then I have to be adopted into a particular position, right? I have to officially be in a particular position to be able to receive what's documented, and then after that, I can go ahead and I can begin to receive, right? I can begin. I'm allowed now to have something bestowed upon me, but and that's what we call a blessing, right? That's a blessing from the Most High, right? So the blessing from the Most High now is there, and now because of that, I also have a duty to perform. When I receive the blessing, because I'm part of the family and because I represent the Most High, I now have a duty to perform what it is that I'm called to do. Okay? Shalom, how you doing, Sister Carla? So in all these different things that we're speaking on today, and talking about family, right? Does family matter? Should one be able to receive? See, we're talking about reversing curses. We're going to reverse curse. We're going to revisit the lie. So the lie that many persons have been told is that family does not matter. Because if family matters, do you know that everybody's not supposed to be preaching? All right, let's do that again. Right? If family matters, if we believe that the Bible is true, what it says, and what family matters, and what family will do what, then everybody's not supposed to preach. Right? Is that true? How you doing, Russell? Right? Is that true? In order to be a pastor or pastoral, or right, you're part of a family. How you doing, Brother Omar? As part of a family that used to lead sheep to green pastures, right? Right. So you're looking at a familial role. You're looking at a nation's role. Remember, we are the nation. It's going to be our theme coming up in 2026. We are the nation. We are a nation, right? And so as a nation, we are qualified for certain things, right? We're also trained, and we do this specific to our nation, our nationality, and what we are commanded to do as a people, right? But if family doesn't matter, then anybody can do whatever they want, right? How are you doing, user 8832-1887287? Right, thanks for being on. All right. So a lot of persons do whatever because we have been taught a lie, and we have even exacerbated a lie. We have taught the lie now ourselves, unfortunately. How you doing, Dominique? That family doesn't really matter so much, because if it did, then not everybody should just be doing whatever they want. But once again, we don't look at this as a nation or as a kingdom or as a family. See, this country is what your countrymen are your family man. Right? You use the word countryman instead of family man because you're just saying there's more gaps in between, right? You and the person, right? You might be 15th cousin seven times removed or something like that, right? But we're saying your family instead of country because we're just saying how close the family tie is. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? Right? How you doing? Was it Ladon Calvert? Not sure how to pronounce it. But that's we missed that it's a family, right? Remember the song, It's a Family Affair, right? How you doing, type of stuff? It's a family affair. This is for a family. This is lineage, right? Right? First things first. You gotta be in somebody's will. If we're talking about inheritance, and then we have to figure out what is your lineage. Now, what is your line? Now, even if it's being written in at the moment, what does this lineage make you? Right? That's why Manasseh and Ephraim, let me say Ephraim and Manasseh, right? They are considered to be not only the grandsons of Jacob, but they're also considered to be what? Considered to be the sons of Jacob, because Jacob adopted them into a position. He said because they weren't raised with their people, he wants them to be allowed at the table with his sons, right? To be considered to be on the same level, right? They are physically his grandsons, right? And they get stuff by being his grandson. Also, though, they are also adopted into the position as being his sons. Right? So now that they're adopted in the position of being his sons, they also have the same role that his actual sons have. Right? This is how lineage and legacy and all these items work. Okay, so now we have to get into a very real conversation. And I apologize. My energy's not up. It's gonna get there, I promise. Right? But now we gotta get to another part of the conversation, because now the next part that comes up is crucial, because if that's the case, then once again, is it a true statement to say that the children of Israel, right, are different? How you doing, Michael? Right. In other words, is it possible that there's that the Bible makes a distinction between those who are with the Satan and those that are with the Most High? The answer to that is, of course. If somebody's really going to argue with that, that's just might not be the thing for you today. Right? But the answer, of course, is the children of the Most High God. Without a shadow of a doubt. Right? Without a shadow of a doubt, it is the children of the Most High. So does family matter? Because if family matters, then that means that if there's a distinction between the children of the Most High and the children of the world, then we have a problem. Because watch this. Anybody who is preaching, I'm going to say this again, this is going to mess with some person, that's okay. Right? Go ahead and you can put all the blame on me, even though you really don't like what the Most High is saying. The reality is that if certain family members are supposed to do certain things, then that means it's the will of the Father who sends them, or who has created them, or has given them these positions and titles to have us in this. So if you believe you're in the will of the Most High, then you have to ask yourself, what family do you belong to? I know I'm being super repetitive, and probably somebody's like, man, okay, get on with it. But this is extremely crucial, because if somebody can get this basic thought process, the rest of this is not going to be that difficult. Right? If somebody, hey, how you doing, double OG, triple OG? If somebody can get this particular sept down, this concept, is not that difficult for us. Somebody, right? If there are persons who say they are you and they're not, but are the synagogue of the Satan, we probably should have a conversation about that, should we not? Right? If there's somebody who says that they are preaching because they are called to the Father, but the Father says in order for them to be priests, they must be of a certain family, we probably have to have a conversation, do we not? Right? How you doing, Brother Alex? How you doing, Tahiti? Right? I'm not trying to get on anybody, be in anybody's face, and blah blah. I'm trying to get you to comprehend and to see that, once again, what is the series called? In order to reverse those curses, reversing the curse means revisiting the lie. And if you're not going to revisit the lie, then you're not going to reverse the curse. And what lie are we talking about today? You've been told that family does not matter, but the reality is family does matter. And if family matters, then we need to figure out what family matters and why do they matter. Come on, that's right, we're just going to tell the truth today. How you doing, Sister Sheila? Praise God for you, right? If family matters, right? If family matters, what family matters? Why does that family matter? Should we see if we're part of this family? Right? If family does in fact matter, and I believe it does. I think we all believe it does, right? Your last name carries value or weight, correct? You guys try to figure out what's going on, whether we're talking about, who you actually are, we're talking about your strong man or all these different things, but your family matters, right? It matters a lot if a woman loves you enough to change your last name, right? Your family matters. And the Bible is no different. You know that, right? The Bible is no different as far as your family maturing. Right? Shalom, big brother Thomas, how you doing? Right? The family matters. And so if the family matters, then we got to figure out what family is the Bible talking about. Right? The Bible keeps talking about and to and through a particular family, a peculiar nation, matter of fact. Constantly and consistently, it keeps talking about this one group of persons. Right? Does it do something different? See, because I don't think persons, once again, we got to catch this. Family matters, and everybody who's about to be in this Bible, right? Well, outside of those who are oppressive and things like that, but for the most part, this whole Bible that we read is about a particular family. There might be other families that are mentioned. There might be other persons who were of another family and become part of our family, but it is about one family. From Adam, right? From Adam to Enos, or well, from Adam, how about this? From Adam to Cain and Abel, and then they mess up, and Adam and Eve to Cain and Abel, they mess up, to Adam and Eve through Enos. I'm sorry, through Seth and Enos and Canaan, right? All the way down through to Enoch, all the way down through to Noah, all the way down through Shem, all the way down, right? From Shem to Abraham, all the way down from Abraham to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob, name change to protect himself, right? Ask for a name change, a blessing, so that he might not be out wrestled by his brother, and he gets a name change called Israel, right? We continue with the same family going through Boaz, going through David, son of David is Yehoshua, right? Where are we missing? Where are we missing the boat? It seems like family matters enough that the Bible itself, in Matthew chapter 1, and the Bible itself in Luke chapter 3, right, which is basically telling the story of the Messiah, starts off with making sure that we comprehend who his family is. Because if his family doesn't matter, then the rest of this doesn't matter. You said there have been over 18,000 gods. Which one do you believe in? Well, or actually, I'm sorry, you said more than 18,000, right? No, 18,000. Watch this. God is a Germanic word that means that you can make whatever you want a deity. So you're right, there are 18,000 persons who have done that. But persons who are actually talking about specifics, Elohim is different than God. God is good, and good is God. That's a different culture, that's a different belief system. I don't believe in God. If you know what a God is versus what Elohim is, right, then you would recognize it too. It's different. How you doing, Sister Danielle? And if the babies are watching, how you doing? How you doing, Auntie Mary? Praise Yah for you. So yeah, so it's very important, very crucial to this, by the way, that we catch what's going on, and we catch what's happening here with the Most High and the Most High Yah. But forgive me for a second, y'all. I'm talking to you guys, and I got to do some stuff. I just realized I didn't say to everybody we're back. So I'll be doing that while I'm talking to you guys. Please forgive me if my attention is not directly on you for a second, right? But we must recognize and realize that family matters, right? It's not just a show. This is not just a diss, right? A Drake diss. This is real. Family does in fact matter. Family matters, and so if there's the stuff that's happening with us is happening to a family, and the Bible that's written to us is written to a family. It's not written to everybody. That's why we say all the time the Bible was not written to everybody, and it's hard for a lot of persons to catch this because the lie that persons have been told is that, hey, everybody is allowed in this no matter what, right? A lot of us were taught that. Hey, son of man, gotta do better than that, right? How you doing, Krishna, the black one, right? That's what that means. But yeah, so in all the different things you have to recognize and realize very quickly, right, that a lot of persons have been taught the wrong thing. So persons don't catch that when Yehoshua is talking and he's speaking on the Sermon on the Mount, he's right. There are persons who are not Israelites who are there, but there's also the majority of them are Israelites, which means that when he's making certain thought process or saying certain things using certain phraseology, etc., he's speaking to a people, to a family who were raised very similarly to him, and have his values, and have his language, and have his characters, right? They keep character, they keep law, the way that he does. So when he's speaking, a lot of persons don't catch, right, that when he says fornication is something that he's talking about is breaking of the law, whether you're married or not. They get it, but the person who's not in the family may not, right? Because if you're in the family, you know the language, you know the context, you know what we're speaking on. But a lot of persons, they are not aware of the language and the context, right? They're having arguments about stuff that are not our arguments, right? Because they're not really in the family, right? Somebody can speak the same language as you and not realize what's going on, right? You can go to a state fair and they can speak Carney, and they speak something that if you pay attention, you might catch some of it, but you're not gonna catch a majority of it, especially if it's not something that you're doing all the time, right? And so what happens a lot of times with these conversations, or at least when persons swear they're having these great conversations, it actually comes up as Dunning-Kruger effect, because they're so busy trying to tell you something that they don't grasp because it's not their family. How you doing, Mystery? Thanks for being part of the community, right? A lot of persons will not grasp this because this is not your family. Your family speaks. See, this is different, right? When I'm speaking, this is like your brother speaking. This is like Psalm 34 says, oh, magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his name together. We have to look through the same lens. It's like, right? It's like some more of Psalm 34, where it says, my soul, my nachavesh, my psychology will make her boast in Yahweh. Those who are humble in position in this family, they will hear and they will be glad. This is not for everyone, right? And it makes it difficult to have further conversation, but we'll try, in this series. So this series, as you can see, it becomes more and more exclusive, because just like Revelation chapter 2 and Revelation 3 say, just like Matthew chapter 13 says as well, those who have the ear, let them shema. Those who have the ear. Not everybody has the ear. Right? It's like perfect pitch. I don't have perfect pitch. If you give me the first note, I can, sing where the rest of the notes go and stuff like that. However, I do not have perfect pitch. If somebody would just say, sing a G, I'm not sure if I would sing it properly or not. Right? That being, right? But those who do have perfect pitch, you can tell them G and they'll sing G correctly every time. Right? Because they have the ear to hear. And there's a lot of persons who don't have this ear. We're having long conversations with them. Right? We talked about this when we were talking about Matthew chapter 7. When you go to Matthew chapter 7 verse 6, if you're able to turn there, please feel free to at this time. I want to show you something real quick. I think you were, is it? I hope I said that name correctly. Right? We're going to go to Matthew chapter 7. So this is after Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 and 2. We're, give, whatever you give, it shall be given unto thee. Right? This is after Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 through 5, where it's talked about, hey, be careful while you're calling out all the other stuff in your brother and your sister that you might not realize that you have, in fact, some stuff in your eye you need to get rid of. Right? So those have been talked about in Matthew chapter 7. Matthew chapter 7, we're smack dab in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew chapter 7, here's something, how you doing, The Rock? Call Banks. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? Incline thine ear. That's right. Lean thine ear. Hear, those who have the ear to hear. Shema, etc. Right? Okay, so now watch this. So now that we've gone through that, Revelation chapter 7, verse 6. Right? You got to learn through your ear, through discernment, through the spirit, through being part of the nation, through being part of this community. We hear things that others don't hear. Matter of fact, if you skip on over to Revelation, we're going to read Matthew chapter 7. We're going to start here at verse 6. Right? If you were to scroll on over in your own time to Revelation, right, you'll discover that in Revelation chapter 13 that the second beast has the horns of a ram. Right? So it looks like a baby ram, so it looks like a baby lamb, right? Which to us is like, the sacrificial lamb. It looks like the sacrificial lamb, but when you listen to it speaks many blasphemies, or it sounds the sound of the dragon, right? When it utters a word. So there's a lot of persons who don't catch that what the lamb or what the false lamb is speaking, right? A lot of persons miss what the false lamb is speaking against that Balaam doctrine, right? That's mentioned in Revelation chapter 2 and verse 14. A lot of persons miss, right? And some even misappropriate, but they miss, right, the word. They miss the cultural value, right? And making sure that you got to understand that the sheep also represent the nation, right? The shepherd represents leadership over the nation, right? And that we have a king that we can trust, right? Now, Matthew chapter 7, back to Matthew chapter 7, verse 6. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs. We talked about this somewhat recently. We'll talk about this again in this series, right? Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, right? Don't give what is supposed to be set apart for your Sha'al and give it to those who are dogs, right? The saying there actually going to a place of where basically the saying was, if you were not full Israelite or Israelite enough, right, then you were a dog, okay? He tested a woman on this with her daughter, if you recall, right? She says even the dogs eat from the crumbs from the master's table. All right, but Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. In other words, and how you doing, baby? My wife's doing the Honorable Mayans. Always check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Love you, babe. Thanks for being on with us. How you doing, Prince? All right. So when he says this, when he says, don't cast pearls before swine, if you look at what he's saying swine, in this case, wild boar, right? If you throw a pearl at it, right, it will look at the pearl strange because it doesn't see it as something of value. It just sees you throwing a rock, right? Because it's not part of the way that your community or your civilization, if you will, right, operates, that it's very clear that a pig who is wild to it, a wild boar to this wild swine, this disgusting swine, in this case, it's saying that this thing that's untouchable, not only is it untouchable, but also it doesn't have the ability because it's not part of your community, because it's not civilized under the banner of the kingdom of heaven, because it's not Yehadasha'al. This wild boar has no clue what a pearl could be. So why would you throw a pearl at it? You said you can get insights and context? All right, I know, right? Why would you throw a pearl at it? Because once you throw the pearl at it, all it can take it as is an attack. It doesn't mean that it's not valuable, but it's not valuable to somebody who's not in, who has no thought process, right? So because they're not in the mindset of it, they'll turn around towards you, the person who threw them this great pearl of value, right? This great stone of value, if you will, right? You took all this time to make it and everything. How you doing, Bruder Bishop? And so you decided you would share it with somebody, but they were what? They're not really in. They don't comprehend. They're not in the family like that. They don't speak the language. They don't live the life. And so you've thrown something to them of great value, but instead, you know, not only did they not pick it up, not only did they not receive it, now you are their enemy, because how dare you throw something at them is all they can see, right? Somebody else who knows what a pearl is and knows the value of it, you throw them a nice pearl, they're going to catch it. Or they'll go to the ground and try to figure out where it went to when it falls. But somebody who is not aware of the value of a pearl will try to attack you if they think it's nothing more than a rock. Right? Now, we say all this because, once again, in this series called Reversing the Curse means revisiting the lie we're talking about today, does family matter? So if family matters, one of the things that we have to start talking about is, why do a lot of persons figure that family does not matter? Right? Why is it that a lot of persons cannot wait to tell you, to teach you and I, to preach to you and I how family doesn't matter? And the reason, right? There's a huge reason for it. There could be many reasons, but we're going to focus on just really one, maybe two, right? Because the reality is that persons have been taught family doesn't matter because they grew up in families where persons thought family didn't matter. or the person that they were training up did not matter. And so now here, you have gotten older. Some persons who are listening to me, maybe not all of you, hopefully not all of you, of course, right? But there are many that who have gotten older and now are dealing with stuff to where family doesn't really matter. You're like, man, this is this, blah, blah, this ain't job, this blah, blah. Like all these cats is, oh, they is with some jobs, they is with some bull jobs, there's with some stuff. And we're like, man, what's going on? And the reality is that nobody showed us what the kingdom says about family like that. How you doing, baby David? I'm not, right? There's something, and once again, if the shoe fits weird, if it doesn't take it off. But there are a lot of us who didn't grow up seeing that this is what fathers do, this is what mothers do, this is what children do, right? A lot of us didn't grow up, with these scriptures, and even if we did, we didn't grow up with them the way that to learn them as law. We grew up with them to learn them as, something that was quoted. Maybe it was something that we were supposed to know for later, but it wasn't being taught the way, the truth of life as we've been taught later on. So we have to come to this place and recognize very quickly that if Yah's thought process of family is not what we live by, then family doesn't truly matter to us. And it's going to be hard. Look, I hope nobody's taking the offense. Some person will take offense. Are you trying this? Because I can feel it in my shunda. I can feel where somebody's out here like, oh, so you're trying to say that because I don't believe what you believe, means that my family's not righteous. And to a certain degree, I would say yes. I definitely believe that there's one universal way. It doesn't mean that everybody is a monolith, but I believe there is a universe, because in universal law literally means, right, the law of the one who spoke the universe into existence. That's what universal law is. And so if somebody created us, created family, wants us to live like him, wants us to be better, wants us to be greater, then yeah, I do believe that there is in fact a universal way. The term universal, once again, not meaning a monolith, meaning the mannerism, the system of manners, right? We talked about that before, meaning the mannerism, right? That there's a system, there's a way, right? There's a way that even seems right to us, but it's not righteous, in fact. But there is a way that seems right unto a man. And a lot of us did a lot of different things. A lot of us were raised by persons who did their best, but we're trying to come with a way of making the family what Yahweh wants it to be, right? If family matters, right, then it matters to the kingdom. And by the way, that seems like a very, very simple word. Let me say it again, because believe it or not, there's a lot of persons who skip over a word like that, and you think it's just, oh, no duh. But if it's a no duh thing, why are there a lot of us who do not do it? So I'm going to say it one more again, that, hey, family matters. And if it matters to Yah, then it matters to the kingdom. Okay? Right? And in every kingdom, how many is every? How much is all? All means all, right? Every kingdom, I'm here to tell you. I know this might mess with your mind. Right? I'm being a little facetious here, right? I know this about to mess with your mind, but watch this. Every nation that's ever existed had families. And that means every nation that's ever existed has to have rules for family. Even if you do not like the rules for the family, even if you do not like the country that you're thinking of, right? Every single one of them has rules and regulations for the family. Period. Right? If you do not have rules and regulations for the family, you're going to have some problems. Right? Rules and regulations for one's family are extremely profitable and important. Right? And so if the family the kingdom matters, then that means the family matters. So here's the part where it gets difficult. If I'll be honest, here's the part where it might get difficult for some. It's the law. That's right. It gets difficult for some because if we say the family matters and we say the kingdom matters, right, then that means the law matters, right? And if the law does in fact matter, then it means that if you do not follow it, then you're saying the kingdom doesn't matter. Now we go into a place to where, see, if the family's not tight, then the kingdom's not tight. right? Fathers who don't protect their households, right, grow families that do not protect their nation. That's a word. I'm gonna say it again. Fathers who do not protect their household, right? They breed, they grow, they invest in families, right? Who invest in men who will not protect their nation. So when you say, how is it that so-called, right? We use the terms that everybody uses, right? Black women. How come black women are not protected? More than likely, it's because you had a son that grew up that didn't get shown at any point that black women should be protected. Right? That how you doing? Is it Paris or Paris? Gris, not sure how you pronounce it. Please forgive me. Thanks for being on and being part of the community. Right? Like that's it. See, if the family matters to a real nation. And everybody who's talking about building a nation and becoming a nation and all these things, you have to realize that the family matters. That's why even tomorrow, we'll have our for those who need it, we'll be having our no, not tomorrow, the week after tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow, but 8 days from now, we'll be doing our grafting sessions again for those who are brand new to us, because it's important that you know how we operate. How you doing, Sister Jennifer? Right? It's important that we know how the family operates. It's important that you know that what you're held accountable to is what I'm held accountable to. Right? Like that is of extreme importance. Right? How you doing, Kofi? It's extremely important that we have the same mannerism or the same system of manner. The same in this manner. This is how you should pray, right? That's why is it important? Because if we are family, then everybody should be praying the same way. If we have the same, see, this whole thing as far as even talking about integrated, persons don't know the word integrated, integrity. It means to be one. So everybody, when you say we're integrating, and everybody says, "Cool, we're bringing all this," that's not how integration works, right? I know somebody. See, we haven't been taught about this stuff properly, right? Integration, integrity, right? Integrity means it's one. So, in a truly integrated system, see, a lot of persons, you don't want integration, right? And by the way, for a lot of you, if you don't know, especially for persons who so-called black persons and stuff like that, Native Americans, etc., Negroes, etc., you actually did your best when you were segregated or were not part of somebody else's colony. Shalom, Sister Joy, if I didn't say so already. I hope I did. Please forgive me for that. Right? Right? But we haven't been taught that. So your Bible tells you are a holy nation, and you don't realize that holy means whole, W before that H, holy nation. Royal priesthood, so your priesthood should be different than everybody else's, right? You are a chosen generation. That means you're not just only generation as far as timeline wise, but it also means generation as far as your particular genes. You're a family, right? You're a family. That's what a nation is. And then also a peculiar people. You do not fit in, right? But that's part of being a nation. Right? It becomes difficult to talk about once again because nobody wants to have an honest dialogue about, hey, when you say a nation, you're saying a family. A real sure enough nation. This is why when you go to other nations, it's difficult for us and we keep doing this weird thing. But like, oh, well, why is everyone? No. A nation is a nation. A nation is a family. Right? You go to Ghana, right? Even though there are a bunch of different nations, true. You go to Ghana, there's going to be a lot of similarities in those nations, aren't there? You go to Nigeria, a lot of similarities, right, in that nation. You go to Zululand, a lot of similarities, a lot of similarities in that nation. Go to Russia, a lot of similarities in that nation. Go to Canada, a lot of similar. You see, you get the gist, right? You go to Madagascar, a lot of the same thing, right? It's a nation. It's also a family. The reason why you say immediate family and stuff like that is because you're talking about how the close proximity. First cousin, second cousin, third cousin is okay. Second removed, third removed, whatever. Okay, right? All that is us saying how closely related, but everybody in that nation is supposed to be family. They're supposed to be. And here is one of the things that's going to be hard, is that we keep pretending that everybody believes them. We keep thinking that everybody who picks up a Bible believes them. But you must recognize everybody doesn't believe they're in the nation of Israel. A lot of them definitely don't believe that they're supposed to be one nation altogether, because if they did, we wouldn't be having some of these same arguments about some of the same stuff over the same persons, trying to make a people out of you and I that we're not even supposed to participate in. What do I mean? That means that if this really was, right, if it really was a nation, if it really was one nation, a whole nation, there wouldn't be a bunch of names for the Most High to be one. Right? That means that there wouldn't be a bunch of different families who say that they're in the kingdom. There would only be one. Okay, I said there would only be, there only should be one. See, this is when it gets difficult, for real now. Because now somebody like, oh, you saying there should only be one family? You blah blah. I don't want nothing to do with you. There should only be one family of believers. There's only supposed to be one. All right, there's only supposed to be one. How many are there supposed? Only supposed to be one. Now there are branches on the tree, but there's only supposed to be one family. You catch that? I know somebody wants you to think different. There's only one family. There's only one tree. There are branches, but only one tree. Right? I know. Are you with me? There's branches, but there's only one tree. There's only one family. If you're not part of the family, you're not even Shemitic. Who is Shem, by the way? And why does that matter? Why is it important that you know who Shem is? Not Sem, even though maybe we give you a little pass if you're still doing the Sem thing because of culture or heritage or something like that. But who is Shem? How is it that you have a long speech ready for me? I'm not saying just anybody random. I'm saying, like, I want you to think about this as an example. Persons will always have an example for us, talking about being anti-Semitic and this and that or whatever. But first of all, who is Sem? And then who is Shem? Who is that? Are you aware? Right? We don't talk about it. Well, who is Shem? Because I can't be anti-Shemitic if I am Shem. Or if I'm of Shem, right? But who is Shem? Shem is one of the sons of Noah. We know who he is. That's right, and his name means authority. So he was named authority. He was named authorized. That's his name. His authority, Shem's authority, is authorized. That's what his name is, right? So Shem is authorized by who? By Noah, right? And out of Shem's lineage is going to come who? Who's Shem's son? Shem has a son. His son's name is Arphaxad. First son, name was Shem, right? Arphaxad, right, has a son. His name is Salah. Think about it. And then Salah has a son. His son's name is Ava, or Hebrew. Right? So if one speaks Hebrew, they speak their family. So if you speak Hebrew, then it's important for you to recognize what we're really doing is saying that you are of the family. And if anybody should keep the Hebrew language, it should be the Hebrew. Right? Right? So it's important because family matches. And they reversed it on us. They told us it did not. You know, they told us a lie. That family doesn't match it. But family seems to match it quite a bit. Matter of fact, you know, when you get into Enoch, Enoch's family matches because Enoch is the one who buries Adam. It's not the only reason why his family matters, but of course, it matters. And Enoch's family lineage of writers continues to go all the way through Noah, all the way through Shem, all the way through Hebrew, all the way through Abraham, who relearns the language that was lost because family matters, right? If you're going to be of this family, you got to make sure that you know the language that your family speaks. How you know, Sister Brooke? Right? You should know the language that your family speaks. Should you not? Come on, family. Come on, family. Should we not know the language of our parents, of our fathers? Father, by the way, means source. So if I know the language of my father, I know the language of my source. Right? So why is it that family mattered all the way up? So now we have to ask another question. How is it that family mattered all the way up until you found out who you were? Right? How is it that family matters to the point to where we had to make sure that we showed only one particular type of human being as being so-called Christ, and then all of a sudden when we found out what that human being as far as bloodline and DNA was more closely related to, all of a sudden family didn't matter. But family always matters. Right? This is why it's important that you know your family background. The reason why it's important that you know your family background, whether it be positive or negative, is due to the fact that if your family is wilding out or is cursed, you're trying to reverse curses. How you doing, Brother Thomas? So I'm trying to reverse curses. If your family is cursed and we don't deal with the lie and the disobedience that got the curse put upon them, we're going to have a problem. Right? Is that so? Is that true? Right? Hopefully, prayerfully, you came with a mind today, or even if you didn't, prayerfully, you have a mind now that you should be trying to reverse the curse. Right? Reversing the curse of what your grandparents might have done, your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents might have done, reversing the curse as far as what persons did as far as color, reversing the curse as far as what persons did as far as, making some huge mistakes in their heart, talking trash about persons, needing forgiveness, needing to let certain things go. There's curses that are upon you that you're going through and that you're fighting off, and you're not going to fight it off if you don't revisit that lie. And today, once again, a lie that many of us have to revisit is family, because family matters. And how you doing, my bro? Thank you for the love. I appreciate you. See, once we realize, matter of fact, not only does it matter to God, it matters so much to Him that He gave extremely profound instructions to ensure that we wouldn't mess it up. Right? Because He knew, matter of fact, not only to ensure we wouldn't mess it up, to ensure that when we messed it up, we would be able to get it back on track. This is why, once again, if you recall, He didn't send Yehoshua, His son, just only for us to be able to marvel at every little thing He did. Although, why not? Marvel at a lot of things, right? That being said, though, He also sent His son to be a correction. Yehoshua was actually sent to be the correction. I know there's other persons who would argue over who was sent to correct, but I'm here to let you know Yehoshua actually was sent to correct a lot of craziness and foolishness that we were getting into. Remember, even Paul talks about the law of sin versus the law of the flesh, right? And so you gotta catch. The law of sin versus the law of the spirit. Excuse me. In Romans chapter 8, Romans chapter 7, the law of sin versus the law of the flesh. Romans chapter 8, reminding us about that. Romans chapter 9 telling us that even when Christ showed up, He was a stumbling stone of offense for many of us because we wanted to do our own thing. So we have to get to the place where Christ came to correct how the family operates, right? He came to correct how the family operates, right? You got to realize that He came to help us with how the family operates. He's part of the family, right? we're supposed to be, depending on the context, right, of the scripture, either we're explained as being a wife to the Most High, right, or we're sometimes talked about being his child. Hello, Sean, and this is the whole thing. This is the wrong time and day for that. No offense to you, just that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm trying to get back on, not feeling that way, so hopefully. But I get it if your whole thing is to be like, Christ is white and Jesus is, I don't worship Jesus. Jesus means half man, half Zeus. Or some people would even argue it means praise Zeus, and why would I go ahead and do that if it's not part of my culture anyway, right? But thank you for being on. If you like listen long enough to maybe see where we are, cool. If not, I don't know if I'm gonna have the time to be able to get to it today. Sorry about that. How you doing, Empress? Right? So in all these things we're speaking on today, we got to get this in our mindset, right? We have to get this in our mindset, in our heart, that a lot of us don't recognize how family works, right? How you doing, Jay? If we recognize how family works, we would stop trying to work it the other way, including even coming against each other as family, rather than trying to figure out how, even if we have different belief systems or whatever, we can still be able to get to something where we as a people come together, right? So you have to recognize and realize very quickly, we're dealing with a lot of issues that are coming from anti-truth, anti-Christ type spirit, which are venomous, poisonous, even, right? Yeah, once again, Sean, that's light work, that's easy work. Are you just coming to that knowledge? Are you thinking that we still teach that? If so, you're in the wrong place. You might want to go somewhere else and tell somebody those things. We know that. We got that here. All right, but thank you once again. Hopefully you got the message. Like I hear you. You're not disagreeing with anything that we say in that regard. So maybe once again, maybe go. Like right, like God being a verb. I don't know. It's not one. Well, anyways, I guess we're gonna go ahead. Sean, I'm gonna go ahead and let you go just for a little bit. Once again, I'm not tripping off of this stuff. It's just I think you come on here ready to have a bunch of persons go, right? And the reality is that that's not a big problem for us because we know who the Messiah is. That's not a big deal for us. That being said, once again though, see, even in that, it's persons don't recognize about it being a family, right? One of the things that messes with persons is, if you're talking about being a nation, then you have to realize that we are a family, right? And as a family, you should get to know the family. If you're not going to get to know the family, then what's the point? You're arguing over something, and we as a people are like, no, yeah, okay, we get that. Right? You know, so like a lot of persons don't get, it's like, you know, even in that, when you become a family, the family listens to each other. And we have a thought process as a family of believers, right? And what happens is a lot of persons are, you know, get into the space to where we argue, and we don't actually take on what we should as a family, right? If we do stuff as a family, we should move and operate as one, right? That's how it should be. It should be moving and operating as a family. And so once again, family matters, right? Once again, family is what matters, right? Family matters. So if we're talking about family and how family matters, then you got to recognize that if the kingdom is not doing well here on earth, and we're having issues that we shouldn't be having as a society, then we got to start looking at what we believe in our family structure. Right? How you doing, Arnaldo? Thanks for being part of the community. So we have to realize what's going on with our family structure. Right? If the family's not structured right, then the community's not structured right. Right? So if children who think it's okay to talk back to their parents and children that talk back to everybody, so in all these different things, we have to make it a point to realize and recognize, you know, once again, who's family? Who is family? Who are the people? Who are the children of Israel? Does the Bible even describe it? Well, we already know that the Bible not only describes it, we know that the Bible makes it a point to say. So we also need to make sure. I'm sorry, we might have to get something going on. Sorry, we got some weird stuff going on. Just give me a second. Okay, well, I guess we'll have to do it just for this time. All right. So, excuse me. So anyway, so in all the stuff that we're speaking of, we're talking about, and we're looking into, we got to, and I apologize, we got somebody trying to basically take over the whole live session. This odd person's, that's somebody who's been with us before, I believe, but it's been a minute anyway. So, all right, so here we go. So back to what we're talking about. In all the stuff that we're saying, we had to get back to a place where we recognize and realize how important it is that the family unit be taken care of. Matter of fact, it's extremely important. How you know, King Geek252. It's also extremely important because we are taught to love, right? To have a relationship with the Most High as a father would with his child, or to have a relationship like with him as far as like he being the husband and us being the wife, right? So in order for us to even comprehend how to love in the kingdom, we have to first recognize how the Most High first loved us, right? Extremely important. If we don't recognize how he loves us, right, and how a father works, how a mother works, etc., then we don't know how the kingdom works. Right, so we have this issue that we have. We have this issue that is popping up due to the fact that we don't recognize family matters, right? So how does family matter, right? How does family matter even in action? Well, number one thing about this, if you would treat, for those of us who are prelates, who are pastors, who are assemblers, who are priests, prophets, apostles, presiding prelates, overseers, whatever you call yourself or whatever you've been called, right? It's important that we recognize and realize that we're supposed to love those in the assembly, right? The way that the Most High loves his wife, or really, we are a caretaker of the Most High's wife, right? And if you ever comprehend that, you'll start to realize, see, I'm not the Most High, so I don't try to run things like I'm the Most High, right? But I'm also supposed to take care of, in his absence, I'm ultimately taking care of his wife, right? It's his wife, first of all, so there's certain things that I have no business doing. You see how even the way we love starts taking in there, it's his wife. So how am I handling the Most High's wife, right? If I were to meet somebody's wife and their husband wasn't there, I would go out of my way to be very respectful, to make sure certain things don't touch. I would make sure that if I told them I would take care of their bride, that I make sure I take care of their bride to the best of my ability. I would see if there's certain things that they eat. I would see if they have certain things they're allergic to, whatever the case might be, because it's my responsibility to take care of, right? So when you realize how to take care of a family, or even how to take care of sometimes at times somebody else's family, you'll begin to realize that you need to change. A lot of us would realize very quickly, you got to change, right? See, we were trying to reverse the curse. So we're going to reverse the curse. First, and the curse means what? It means revisiting the lie. And so you have to ask yourself, once again, does family matter? And if we know, obviously we're getting the answer over and over again already is yes, 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 yes. Well, then once again, we have to ask ourselves, who taught us to fight each other? Because you're my family and I'm your family too. Right? If you're Israel and I'm Israel, whether grafted in or otherwise, if we're both Israel, right, then we're both family. Right? Is that right? That's pretty solid, pretty straight, right? Pretty straightforward, right? We're family. So why would you treat me, right? Why would you treat me as any less than who I am? If I really am family, then treat me like family. Right? Are you my family? You know, am I your family? We got to, and then start looking at it. How is one treating you? How you doing, Sister Allison? Right? How you doing, Money Green? Prayerfully, persons have been treating you like, yes, you are family. And if not, then we need to start bettering ourselves and doing better. But the goal is to be treated like family. The goal is, oh man, yes, I know you, you know me. The goal is, hey, somebody can check on me from time to time. The goal is, hey, we can study with each other. The goal is, hey, even if I'm not coming all the way over to, 10 states over, I can't afford to do that. Hey, there still should be somebody that's around me that maybe we can have some kind of relationship with, and we can talk with, and we can have, we can put stuff out on the text train, and we can continue, and we can push to keep doing it. Because that's what family should do. Is even if it's hard to do, we should still push towards coming together and loving on each other. By this will men know that you are my disciples, by the way that you have loved one another, not with your love, but according to his love. If you love somebody else with the love of Christ, well, then they know who you belong to. Right? If I love you the way that Yehoshua loves the assembly, then you should be able to say, oh, he represents the Most High. Right? If I'm willing to be a living sacrifice, somebody should go, oh, okay, I see that. Right? If somebody they themselves live as a living sacrifice, when I live as one, they should be able to see, that we live very similarly. And it shouldn't be that difficult for us to find out who's living how and this and that or whatever. And it shouldn't be an argument because we both live by the same law. Right? That's why we said, going back to what we were talking about earlier, a lot of persons keep talking about integration. Integration is not Yahweh's will because integration is Yah's will, but not what y'all think. Y'all think integrated means black persons and white persons live in the same space. You guys think that integration means you should be able to go to the same school. Integration means that there's one belief. Integration means there's one Yah. How you doing, Sister Judah? Right, that's what true integration means. A lot of persons don't know that. That's what true integration is. True integration is we're one unit, we're one family. True integration is what you read is what I read. Right? So when somebody tells you that they're trying to do something for family in the world, they don't mean what you and I mean. How you doing, only one nation? Right? If somebody in the world says, we want our families to be better, they're not talking about what you and I are talking about. Once again, no shade. I'm not trying to hate on anybody. I'm giving you contextual fact that prayerfully you use to help reveal truth. I'm trying to tell you right now, you're busy talking about family and not realizing that somebody, when they talk about family, they don't mean what you mean. Right? They don't care about what you care about. Right? I know this seems to be something that somebody be like, man, okay, he ain't saying nothing today, And that might be how you feel, but hopefully you catch the little bit of nothing I am saying, right? Hopefully you catch it. Is that, look, you have this mindset that somebody believes exactly what you believe, and the reality is when they say family in the world, when they say family in the White House, when they say family at your church, when they say family at your job, they're not talking about what you and I are talking about. When they say the love of the Most High, they don't even know his name. Right? I'm trying to help somebody and trying to let you know that you're in your mind, you're thinking that everybody's thinking what you're thinking, that everybody's believing what you're believing, that everybody's operating what you're operating again. And the reality is they're not. Right? The reality is they're not. Right? The reality is that when you sit down and the preacher starts preaching and you start saying amen, somebody next to you, statistics show that they are not saying amen about what you're saying amen about. Right? Statistics show that most persons do not open their Bible until the preacher says, open your Bible too. So when you're like, oh man, yeah, I can't wait for him to get into this. I can't wait for her to speak on this. I've been studying about this. I'm glad somebody's going to get into this. The person next to you might not ever open their Bible up. Here you are ready for all this stuff that you think is going to match all the stuff that you've been studying and going through and stuff. And the reality is this person might not have opened up their Bible, outside of when a preacher told them to for the last 10 years. Right? In our family, when we look at the Bible, it should be different. Family should matter. Right? When we open up the Bible, it should be different. It should be a different experience for us. It shouldn't even be close to what they're talking about. I need you to see. It shouldn't even be close. Beloved. It shouldn't even be close. Because you should be studying. You should be prayed up. And this should be the 15th time that you've gone through that scripture. If everybody in the world has heard John 3:16, a nice 20 times in their life, you should be way past that. Because you belong, because this is a different belief system. It's a different country. But way different. It's not even supposed to look like it's kind of sort of close. You hear me? It's not even supposed to look like it's kind of sort of close. Right? I mean that with all sincerity, with all of my heart. I mean that. Right? That this should not even be close. It shouldn't even be close when persons come into this, but because it's supposed to be family text. Right? It shouldn't be close. It shouldn't be close. The person on your job shouldn't have more, well, unless they study it, of course, but they shouldn't have more in this than you do. Right? This should be important to you. Reading what Moses says, right, for us is powerful, because it's just like, reading what Dad said. Not just like, well, hopefully you get what I'm saying, right? Because they're supposed to be our family. Right? Me knowing what Obadiah said is like my Uncle Willis saying. Right? Because they're family. That's what it's supposed to be. Right? Family matters. There's certain things that you're supposed to get because this is supposed to be you, beloved. This should be something that not everybody's going to get, not everybody's going to ascertain, and matter of fact, you shouldn't even believe, well, I don't know. See, because we're also, well, I'm going to say this, prayerfully this is a safe place for me too, because there's somebody who's hearing me talk like this, and probably has it in their mind already that, see, this is a cult, this is cult behavior, this is blah, blah. I'm just going to say something. You go ahead and believe it if you want. If you don't, you don't. Look, this ain't about cult behavior. This is about for real. This is about you need to recognize this. Like the way you read the Bible shouldn't match the way somebody else reads it. I'm not saying you can't ever have a conversation with somebody about the word if they're not. No, hear what I'm saying is that you should recognize that when you're talking to certain persons, they're just not going to catch what you're catching, because they shouldn't be, because this should be a different body. This should be a different branch of the tree. On this branch of the tree, you should be getting a whole bunch of stuff on here that comes from studying and stuff, that comes from like years and years and years of putting stuff into effect. If you still sitting up here, trying to drink sincere milk, and you've been part of this for 10 years, either we're not doing what we're supposed to do, or you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But you should sound higher up, if that makes sense. Not even just because you all that blah blah whatever. No, you should sound higher up because you chewing on some words that's at a higher level. How you doing, Miss Q? And how you doing, Guardian of the highest order? Thanks for being a part of the community. Right? How you doing, Raphael? Like at some point, this you got to recognize that you're part of a family that doesn't sound like everybody else. Does that make sense? I hope that doesn't. I don't really think that means anything bad, but I know there's always somebody out there who can say I said it, did whatever. But perfectly that makes sense to you. I'm not trying to say that we better than everybody. No, what I'm trying to tell you is that at some point we should be doing a little better than the world, right? From milk to meat, yeah. At some point we should sound different than the world. At some point at some point, if we are who we say we are, you should be getting something that makes you have to grow. That's right. Like at some point, there should be some evidence that somebody gave you something that you can't just easily digest. Hey, Greg, is that the best you got? Hopefully it's not, right? But welcome, if that's the best you got, right? But these are things that we have to really be honest about and be bold about and let others know. There's times when yes, the answer is I'm gonna be quiet, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna hear you out, I'm gonna do blah blah. But then there's also times where every once in a while I have to let you know, hey my brother, hey my sister, you are not even close to that. There are times that I have to let you know, hey, you're trying to talk to me about something. It happens all the time in the live sessions. Persons come in and they start talking about stuff. Yeah, it happened even earlier. Somebody came on. Yeah, we got to make sure that everybody understands what color Christ is. And we got to make sure that this and that. And after a while, it's just okay, you know that we got you over here. I'm glad. If that's your thing, you're on, cool. But you need to go and maybe find somebody else that's what they're on. Meanwhile, we're actually trying to establish some things now when we're talking about, where we're going to live, how we're going to operate, making sure persons who are in need of help, financially are getting the help that they need in this season, in this time. But, some persons come on and their immediate thing is, oh, I know this one thing. And it's yeah, okay, well, if you're part of this family, I just, no offense to you, we kind of, we talk about it from time to time. But that's not actually a problem for us, But there'll be a lot of persons who will be on there. Oh man, you got to. No, that's not an issue for us. You shouldn't hate people because of the color of their skin. Okay, we got it. Right? But it's difficult for persons because a lot of persons haven't been part of a family dynamic where that's the normalcy. Right, this is why we do repeat quite a bit on here, but however, Holy Spirit has us be highly repetitive because there are persons who've never heard it, but also if you've been with us long enough, there's certain things that you guys should automatically know, but that's part of being part of a family. The same thing, family matters. So, what's going on with your family? What's going on with your household? Do your children sound like they're followers of the way? Right? Does your spouse sound like it? And if not, what is the plan to lovingly help get them there? Lovingly, of course, right? Not just. I'm tired of this. Blah blah blah. Lovingly, right? Lovingly. But what are we gonna do? What is in the goal? Is it only to talk bad about these persons, or is it to realize that we need to help them more than anybody else because that's our family, right? Ultimately, the decision is theirs. How you doing, Sister Andy? How you doing, Rock Lot? Ultimately, the decision is theirs. We can't force somebody to do anything against their own will. Everybody has free will. That being said, though, right? What are we going to do to help? What are we going to do to help? What are we going to do to make sure that we take on the infirmities? Right? Those of us that are strong, let us take on the infirmities of the weak. Right? What is the family plan that you have? Not just on your phone. Everybody, it's interesting, everybody got a family plan for the phone, but when I say what's the plan for your family, we don't really have persons well, I've decided that I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to make this, and then I'm going to have a trust for this, and then we're going to make an LLC to bounce about this, and then blah, we're going to have, stuff for, where everybody's got life insurance, and everybody's going to have, because they're all meaningful to the family, and then we'll make sure we don't have plans for that, but we have plans for all these other things. But what about the family? How you doing, Sister Shirley? Right? What about our families? Family matters. Right? How you doing, Brother TJ? The family matters, right? It matters, and I'm here to tell you, right? I'm trying to help us out. Once again, the family matters. Like, where is the stuff for our families? If we did it for our families, I'm telling you, it becomes easier to start doing it for others. Like, these are things that I was just mentioning slightly, like briefly, but they're true. Like, if your family members mean that much to you, why not make sure that you don't end up like a lot of persons who lose family members and have nothing invested, right? So your family member passes on, and usually we don't have anything set up even for cremation, right? But what about having stuff that's set up so that you can make sure that your family member is set up, and then after 10 years, right, that you can make sure that you do it again and again and again, and you keep adding on and keep having stuff there or whatever, that now your family members are taken care of. Right? Like, these are things that we don't think about as being holy, but they are. Right? It's great that the miracle that Yah gave to that came to that family where the mother was getting ready to have both her sons basically have to do, indentured servitude for a few years. It's great that Yah can give that miracle, but what if there was stuff already there to take care of the family? That's His will as well, right? That's right. We're supposed to leave an inheritance for our children's children. That is in fact breaking the generational curse. That's right. I'm thinking outside the box with the four elements, enjoying the universe with the Creator. Yeah, I see. Yeah, so in all these different things that are going on, we have to have a mindset to do that. That's family. The family matters, right? Are we going to actually do something for our children, do something for our spouses, do something for those that we say we love, or we just, it'd be nice. The Bible even says, before you start talking about the wealth of the wicked being laid up for you, first things first is you have to think generational wealth. If you don't think taking care of your children's children, then you're not actually thinking righteously. Right? If you because the family should matter. The first things first, right? If one desires the office of a pastor of a competitive, he desires an excellent work. That being said, he must first, right, make sure that he doesn't have all these different weird things on the books that we can find on him. And then number two, he must be what? Husband of one wife. He must also make sure that his family is run well, right? All these things are important. If he can do it for his family, then we can see that he can start doing it for others. Right? If we see that he can do it for his family, right, then it shouldn't be hard for us to see that he can do it for others as well. Right? So we can do it. So you see what I'm saying? If you can do it for your family, then you'll see that it's easier to do it for others. Right? This is why even when I tell persons about tithing, if we teach you how to tithe here in SOC, right, we're also trying to teach you how to tithe to yourself. Right? Like, a lot of persons don't catch that even in the family, the tithing is not just to be like, oh, okay, see, we got stuff in there too. It should be to help you to start learning. Right? There's a young brother, I haven't been able to get back to him yet. Hopefully I get back to him later today. But there's a young brother, whatever, we just started working with him or whatever. And one of the things he said that was powerful, was very true. He said, even if you can't help me and giving me money and giving me this and blah, blah, at least if you can talk through things with me, or you can tell me about investing and things like that. He was like, things as a man I was never taught or showed before. It's the truth. We don't get taught simple things. Small things even. You be surprised sometimes, but you might consider to be the smallest thing, brother. It'd be one of the greatest things that somebody could ever be taught. That's why I'm working real hard on making sure, and I'm mostly self-taught, but work real hard I want Solomon to be a fisherman. I want Solomon to be a huntsman. Push, right? His mom already teaching him how to deal with these the herbs and everything out here. So if push up the shell, something crazy happen, he can survive. He can live. We have a lot of persons who are not even ready for that. You know, right? Those might be small things to some, or some of you thinking like, oh, it's really nice. You know, my father might have, shown me how to fish something like that. Hey, being taught by your father to fish is powerful, right? Being taught by your mother to do, which, and forgive me, sisters, I'm not taught by my mother on all this stuff, but teaching how to sew, teaching how to do hair, teaching how to cook, teaching how to be a mother. Nothing like a father teaching his son how to be a father, showing his daughter what it is that she should look for in her husband, mother showing their sons what it is they should be looking for in their wives, right? These are things that are extremely important and extremely powerful and flow quite a bit. Uh-oh. Can you guys still hear and see me over here? Oh, okay. It's going in and out. All right. It is what it is. So it's important. It's extremely important, very important that we that we see that, right? That we see all these different things. Because family matters, and one of the things that we've been told and taught is to toss family aside, right? We haven't been taught to love our families correctly. We haven't been taught what a husband is, what a wife is, right? So everybody talks about dating. Dating's not even biblical. Right? So when we come along and we say, hey, dating's not biblical, somebody tries to say, oh no, that's not true, blah blah. No, it is true. Absolutely true. Dating is not biblical, right? We haven't been taught how to be so strong in marriage that dating, we don't even have an opportunity to date, right? And that's crucial. I'm gonna say it again though. We have not been taught, first of all, something simple, that dating is not biblical. If it's not biblical, it's not of Yah. So if we've been taught that it's not of Yah, or that it is of Yah, we need to get rid of that teaching, and we need to teach so well on marriage, there's no room for dating. Right? What do I mean by that? Okay. The only reason why persons are dating is because we don't have a community set, a guideline set, and protection set against persons doing so. Right? When you build nation, when we build this nation together, we are the nation, we be the nation. Well, this is a safe place for us. When we build this, we got to make sure that we're very big and very quick to make sure that persons comprehend what marriage actually is. That sex is marriage, marriage is sex. What Yah's will is. Right? And persons who fight against it, they need to recognize like what's going on, what your fight is. It's not against me, it's against the Most High. Right? Like there is no such thing as, in the kingdom, there's no such thing as I'm gonna try to see if I like the flavor. Right? There's no. To do that is to disrespect an Israelite woman. And once again, see, Balaam doctrine pops in because they'll tell you something like the family doesn't matter, because if the family truly mattered, then we wouldn't say, hey, you know what, stop trying to, what is it that the new saying is? Please stop please allow them to have sexual expression, right? Don't slut shame. It's another one, right? These are the things that, this is, all these weird things that happen that they bring up, right? For men, we act like men aren't even supposed to have, we act like if men have sex that they're still virgins somehow. Like that's a wild one and other stuff where literally like, men don't even think about the fact that, like you're laying down too, and you've lost your ability to think of what treating a woman is properly is as well, treating a wife even, right? we haven't been trained on what a wife or a husband is. So now we get into these long relationships, and for many of us, they become the longest relationships we've ever been in, and we don't know how to operate properly inside of what Yahweh told us. Right? He's already told us and shown us what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, and we still won't do what he says. Right? He's told us what we're supposed to do. We will not do what we are supposed to do. And then we start trying to blame him or trying to say, it's the group that I was part of, it's the unit I was part of, they're terrible persons, blah, blah, this and that, forgetting that no, we have a responsibility, but also too, once again, we haven't been taught. Right? We have been taught a lot of these different things. And so here we are trying our best to make it. But the reality is that, nobody taught us these things. So we have to be taught what the family is. So, we have to be taught, first and foremost, we're supposed to be taught these things from we are children. Right? Like, from when you were born, the first 3 years, that we teach, we're supposed to teach boys that they're boys and girls that they're girls. Nowadays, that's in the front on society. But that's the first thing we would teach. Second thing we would teach is to make sure that you're weaned from mom. Not so much as far as stop breastfeeding, because you probably might have already done that, but wean from her, because especially for the boys, when they get to the next, ages 7 through 9, they're supposed to be dad's apprentice. And same thing for the little girls. They're supposed to be mom's apprentice, right? Right, and then we keep on growing from there. They get education like they do in school, and then from there you get education as far as what is a man, what is a woman. Then from there you get educated on what is a husband, what is a wife. Then from there you get educated what is a mother, what is a father, and then you're given your inheritance if you're a boy. Right, go out there and you can be unprotected on your land and doing these things like that as a wife, mother, and little girl, but still protected like a dad's little girl or mom's little girl. She stays at the house. She can still have business, all these different things, whatever, but she's going to stay at the house for that protection. Right? Now, these are the things that you would be taught from the beginning. What is a husband? What is a wife? Now, you have persons who've been married 30 years and then kind of be talking about, that's Kofi, I've never heard this stuff before. Right? And that's kind of messed up. Not kind of, it is messed up, and it's really jacked up, and that used to be who we were, right? When we were taken, this is where I actually thought we were going to go today. We'll probably do this tomorrow, whatever day we come back. But I thought we were going to talk about this, where, even when we were taken into slavery, whether you were native to where they took over, or whether you were brought over to where it was taken over, right? A lot of persons don't realize when we were taken with such like high intelligence. They didn't just kidnap or make more prisoners of war out of persons that had no thought process, persons that were stupid, persons that didn't go to school, persons that hadn't trained properly, persons that weren't physically valuable. Like it's the opposite. These were persons who were. You have to realize that if you're going to sell, one of the things nobody talks about is, if you're going to sell a slave, how you doing, Alice? How you doing, G? If you're going to sell a slave, right? Excuse me. You're going to bring out their best attributes, right? And you're trying to bring them to particular persons. Right? So if you have somebody who is in need of Kemet, who is in need of somebody who can, number crunch for them, who can basically, do math very well or be an accountant for certain things that are going on with shopping, let's say. You're going to get that person. You're not going to try and get somebody who you think is really dumb, stupid, slow, and then try to teach them how to read and everything overnight. And no, you're going to try and find somebody who's a mathematician, right? You're going to find somebody who's a mathematician and try to get the mathematician. How you doing, Minister Raj? Right? You're not going to go to the person. right? You're not gonna. A lot of persons forget this. You're not going to out there and being like, oh man, you know what? I need somebody to help me build a house, and then you go and you find 20 persons that don't know how to build anything. Like maybe you find some person that can do some heavy, some just regular day to day, just move this around labor. But for real, you're looking for somebody who can lay down a plan, And we forget the value that we had. They didn't come looking for you just because you were black only. Right? Hopefully that makes sense. They didn't come looking for you just because you were a black dude. Right? You hear what I'm saying? They came because you, as a so-called black dude, right? As a so-called black woman, you also had things that they knew that you did better than everybody else. It wasn't just only because you could be under the sun all day. Hey, how you doing, Dan Bob? Is that the best that you got? First of all, you're like 100% wrong because my mother, right, and her mother are both from Jamaica, and through them actually is where I get my name Kofi, which is a name used also a lot in Jamaica, as well as from where her people came from before her, which is Haiti. I'm sorry, Haiti. Sorry, I'm thinking about stuff I was trying to teach, but no, excuse me, not from Haiti, excuse me, from West Africa, what you call modern Ghana today. I look cooked, okay, whatever I look like to you, but I look like somebody who you're able to get on their platform. That's how cooked I am, that you have to come on, right? But anyways, I appreciate y'all more than you know, because it lets me know I'm in the right spirit, I'm doing the right thing, the correct thing. Right. That being said, in the righteous thing. That being said, though, see, a lot of persons miss that, and don't have a, they don't think about that. They came, that's right, looking for skill sets. They didn't come for you because you didn't know anything you were doing. They came looking for somebody that could help them with a particular skill set, right? So they weren't looking for you. Yeah, Charles active. That's right. Exceeding joy. Right? But a lot of persons miss that yeah, they needed somebody to help. They were going to get somebody to train, like Thomas Jefferson sent slaves over. They were still chained up and everything, but he sent them over to Paris to learn how to cook and then had them come back. But these are things that persons don't recognize and realize. You have to realize who you were. Not only who you were, but who you are. Not only who you are, who you be. Not only who you be, who you become. Not only who you become, who you became. Right? And not only that, but who you are becoming. You have to recognize and realize that persons are coming for you, and when they're showing up at your door, they're not showing up at your door, they're not showing up with stuff because you don't have it going on. They're showing up because you've got something. Right? Just like we were talking about in the historic fashion, or the historics that we were teaching, where you have to recognize and realize they were coming because they recognized what you had. So a lot of persons miss that. When they went over, you think they went over to Mali because they didn't think you were smart? You think they went over to Hispaniola or to Haiti? Or to which is Haiti, and Hispaniola is Haiti and Dominican Republic. You think they went over there because you didn't have anything, or they were looking for, as Christopher Columbus mentioned, they were looking for Negroes. They were looking for Israelites. Right? How you doing, David? Thanks for being part of the community. All right. So a lot of persons are not aware. They're just going through the motions, doing the same thing over and over again, and not aware of the greatness that's in you. Persons aren't going out of their way. Here's the part that nobody really wants to talk about. Sure, there might have been some persons who got to a point where they were just like, I don't care, whatever, I just want them because they're black. But most persons, if you're going to get anything, any property, any kind of slave, any kind of indentured servant, either, even too, because that's what you guys do when you're going and getting jobs and you're doing your resume. That's to become an indentured servant. That's what you're doing, right? Working out the years, how much you get paid, all that stuff, the contract. That's what we're talking about, right? Same thing. And when you go to these places, I need you to recognize they're not sitting up there for real worrying about building you up in 5 years. You know, like in 10 years, where do you think you'll be at in this company? And you be thinking to yourself, shoot, if I can find a better job in two days, I'm gonna be gone, right? That's what you think. But you instead you try to find some weird reason. The reality is that that's not for you. You're showing up at a place that's not for you or whatever. It's not even going to support you. It's not going to support your family. And as we're talking about today, family matters. So what are we doing to ensure that our families are going to be taken care of? Right? We were talking about this in for our men. We got one more time going through. We're going to go through our book that we've been going through with the 5 love languages. But it's important that our men, and even anybody going through it, whatever level you're going through, whatever classes you're going through with us in that book, it's important that anybody going through it recognizes that hopefully you're not going through it just to say that you read a book or just going through the motions, but hopefully you're going through it because you're going to need to use those skills, right? For your family first, and then for others. And we are a family, right? Your immediate family needs to be taken care of. Also, we are a family as well. We're your family as well. And I know, yes, you have your family, and you've got your blood relatives and DNA and all DNA relatives, all that stuff. And I'm not speaking against that. Hear what I'm saying though. If SOC is going to be what it's supposed to be, then we are a family as well, which means that you're going to have to learn these skills and stuff in order with your family. If your family doesn't have this down, SOC doesn't have it down, right? It's important that all of us have all this down. It's important that all of us are listening to this, liking this, making sure that we're growing with this, making sure that we're having, real dialogue about these items or whatever. It's important that we learn these laws, that they're instituted. That these laws are instituted. Remember, we were talking about marriage even as an institution. Therefore, you have to be institutionalized to even get marriage. A lot of persons are so busy telling you why. I'm not going to be institutionalized. I'm not going to be in somebody's cult. That's what you claim it to be. I'm not going to be in somebody's cult. I'm not going to be this. I don't need anybody to tell me anything. I put on my pants one leg at a time, just like your pastor, blah, blah, and all that. Yeah, okay, cool. But here's the deal. And all that stuff that you're running off and all that stuff that you're saying, real talk, where's the family dynamic at? I know it seems like I'm probably just repeating family, but I hope somebody's catching why I'm doing it. Where's the family dynamic at? Like, question, for real, where is this family? Like, I've been to so many persons and had so many persons tell me why their family is this and blah, blah, and that and all that. I've heard, other preachers tell me why they got it taken care of and everybody should just follow that. Okay, question, what are we going to do for our family members? And what are we going to do that's going to start at home? Right, to where we're so great at doing it that then we just simply take what we do and we take it out into the street. Right? What do we have in place? Not what would I like. What do I have in place? When somebody calls me, what do I have in place? What word uses do I already have to make sure they recognize this is family, and I want you to realize that you have peace, that you have shalom. Right? Right? What is it that you have in place already? What scripture do you have on your heart? That's a go-to. When somebody comes by and you can't wait to show them the amount of love. What's the scripture that you have in mind for once you finish this today when you do your own personal Bible study? What is the scripture that you have in play that's going to help your great grandchild? Has Yah already told you, hey, your grandchild's going to be da-da-da? Have you already started working on that? Has Yah already told you, hey, your wife, she's da-da-da? Have you already started on that? As you already showed you, your husband, blah, blah. Have you started on those things? One of the reasons why the family goes to the generational curse, once again, is because of what? What's one of the main reasons why one is going to deal with generational curse? What is the main reason? It might be almost the only reason. It's not necessarily. But the main reason why persons are dealing with curses now is because of disobedience. So if you know that your child has a problem with disobedience in this lane, maybe you want to start working with them in that lane. Right? And not be reactive to it and be like, see, I'm so tired of when this happens. No. Proactive. Preactive. We already got stuff in order. We already know that they're going to go towards this. They're going to do this. They hang out with this. Blah, blah. We already know these things are going to happen. So let's go ahead and have something already. It's already ready to go. We already have something in mind. How you doing, Brother Jacob? And is it Element Intelligent? I never say it correctly. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly now. Yeah, we got skills of our own that we can use, most definitely. So hopefully you guys are catching it. Hopefully you guys are catching. We're waiting on all these other things or whatever. Like, first things first, let's start dealing with our family, right? We're gonna circle back. I'm kind of being repetitive. I'm kind of in this early today because we're gonna talking about husbands and wives at some point, as we usually do in a lot of our series. We're going to talk about husbands and wives at some point. So since we are going to talk about husbands and wives, I like to take a little bit of, we won't go into on this one some of the stuff that comes to family. But yeah, we're definitely going to talk about that. But yeah, the thing about this, the fact that, what is it? In the world, most places in the West especially, divorce rates are going to be 50 to 75%, somewhere between 50, and 75%. And the wild part about that is depending on where these believers or churches or camps or whatever are, they're usually going to mirror wherever they are, meaning that the world sets the expectation for divorce. In the kingdom. In the kingdom, divorce should be bare minimum and really should be, as a result of somebody's extreme disobedience to the word. Right? But in the world, divorce happens because somebody doesn't like the person that week. I don't know. In the kingdom, divorce should rarely happen because it should only be about kingdom business. In the world, divorce happens quite a bit because it's not about just kingdom. So, and all these different things, we have been, especially with relationships, especially with family, we have been taught to be so anti-family that it's difficult to have a conversation, even when we talk about how to discipline, right? Our children. It's become a thing where it's difficult to even have conversation about discipline because the discipline of a child even has to come with agreement. And once again, though, what is the standard? We don't have a standard that we're under, right? No understanding, right? So since we don't have the standard for here, we don't have the mindset proper. We don't speak well. We don't make sure that we have proper plan. We don't look at making sure that there's even a chain of command. Before everybody talks about Marlon, before anybody talks about Toussaint Louverture, before anybody talks about Jean-Jacques Dessalines, before somebody talks about Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Before we speak on any of these persons, you have to first things first have an honest dialogue about the fact that back in any of these persons or any of these organizations the person is attached to that I just mentioned, there are persons willing to help. If there to be a chain of command. Hey, how you doing, Minister Gibbs? Shalom, peace, or Reverend Gibbs. I know you said you don't care which one. But yeah, these are things that we don't want to talk about, right? That we don't have simple things. We don't have things like, okay, who's in charge? All right, what's the point of it? Okay, what is the flag? What is the agreement on, the national, like the Black national anthem? The Black national anthem is a Garveyite anthem, but everybody argues over what's the actual anthem. There's a lot of different things that we have that we still don't want to be honest about or whatever, and especially when it comes to us as being a family, right? We're never going to be a nation if we're not going to have the same stuff in our houses, same family. It's just not going to happen, right? It's never going to happen, right? I don't care how dark everybody's skin gets. If everybody gets skin, blacker than this, it's not going to work if everybody's still in a situation where we're fighting over every little thing. Where if FBA is still fighting against Afrocentric, but both are trying to say that they both follow Garvey, it doesn't make sense. Even in that, getting the family in the same place. Even for those who believe, like KRS-One, but believes that there's he believes probably more so on the, what tip is that? The evolutionary tip, right? He believes more in the evolutionary tip, right? Where you got the evolutionary side of things and all that, and we just so happen to come in the language of blah blah, but even he will tell you that we should still support. If you're going to have stuff there, then fine. We still have to support the same belief system, right? Regardless of what it becomes, it's got to be the same. And persons don't want to realize that at the familial level, right, at the family level, like everybody, we must recognize the difference between that. And a lot of persons don't recognize there's a lot of persons that you were raised with who say that they're your family and have not shown you that's what it is. And you guys will even say, well, that's what family's like. No, not in the kingdom. Right? Stop program picks up where Garvey left off. Okay. So in all these different things, you have to recognize and realize, and how you doing, Sheila? We have to recognize and realize that there's a lot of things that are going on that are hard because we don't have a family. We don't really value the family in the manner that we should. It's going to be difficult to move forward if we don't look at it as family. Once again, Moses is family. It's different when it's like that, right? It's different when you say, that's why you say brothers and sisters, that's why you like to say ancestors and stuff like that. Why are you saying that? You say those things because you're trying to say, hey, I'm bringing it closer like family. This is somebody I look at like family. This is somebody who I want to approach like family. I don't want to approach this in just some random way or whatever. I want to approach this as I would if I was reading about my family member, learning about what they did before. That's what in essence we should be doing, because we are family, which means that these persons who wrote the word, they wrote it for us. Right? So, anyway, I don't really have much more to say about this. I know it's been kind of repetitive over and over again. That being said, I feel like led to say this part one more time before we take our leave. We're ready to get on the road. I feel led by Holy Spirit to say this just at least one more again. That if you're going to see any group you're part of, those of us who are SOC, even I'm doubling down on this for us, obviously, right? Any success, and any success stories that we'll make, they're going to come through family, a family dynamic, right? If it's not family, it's not really going to get us where we need to get or where we want to get. The goal is to be family. The goal is to make sure that we are looking after each other in that regard, right? Especially if we be honest, some of us have gotten more out of these times. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk to you. Once again, I'm just saying, if we be honest, as much as I hear about these dynamics and stuff, sometimes you're going to have to learn what it is to be here. Right? Some of us didn't have, some of us, we learned really bad, icky, disgusting things, and we're trying our best to repeat them, not realizing that, hey, we don't have to repeat it. Matter of fact, some of those things, maybe we should change them. All right. So anyways, though, thank y'all so much. I appreciate you. So hopefully we'll be back where we need to be by the time you see me this evening. And then we'll continue with the live sessions. I won't say, I will let my yay be yay, my nay be nay. So it is my plan to be on tomorrow, since we basically missed Saturday and Sunday. Well, not basically, we did. And because of some different things going on that just needed to heal from and stuff. So we're getting back to it and everything. Prayerfully, all is well with everyone. I'm not sure about tonight's Zoom meeting at 9. We were looking for. I guess just we might have to. I don't know. We'll let you guys know. We're looking at having a meeting again soon and trying to get back on our meetings that we were having before. But anyways, love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on. We really do actually got to get ready to go and make sure that I've got some stuff together. So I'm gonna leave this here for right now. We won't have a shout out today. I do apologize for that, but I thank everybody for being on with us and being great, being awesome, being what God wants you to be. Prayerfully, we'll see you guys this evening at 8 p.m. New York time on TikTok, on YouTube in the same place, on TikTok, on Kofi_42. Prayerfully, we'll see you guys then. So much love to you. Thank you again. We honor you. Hopefully all is well. We'll see you in a little bit. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life deserving to be honored, and to the ministerial staff, moderators, live and everybody. If it's your first time listening, one time admitting prayerfully. If not, even if you don't come back, we appreciate you. Thank you, moderators, everybody, for the job that you guys did, or what you guys always do. And until the next time, remember that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. All right, Shalom. Take care, family. Talk with you soon. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you again.